All right. I think because we have so much content, Gina, I'm just going to jump right in since Joanne did a great little intro for us. Um, so just a reminder, this is part two in a series we're doing. So 2 weeks ago, we talked about how to make your website work before you jump into the digital marketing. Today, we're going to be talking about that baseline consistency for digital marketing. And then in 2 weeks, Gina's going to be really leading us and talking about how do you push beyond the basics in digital marketing. So we really love interaction when Gina and I present. So we don't just want to be the only ones here sharing information. So just a great way to start, add your name, your organization, and your role in the chat box. It's a great way for everybody to meet in this group. Maybe you even find somebody in a similar industry and you guys can have some conversations offline. So some objectives for today. So one, let's talk about a year of your digital marketing strategy. We'll talk about themes. We'll talk about topics. Talking about what's the balance between your website content, your email, and your social. Brainstorm some content ideas, give you some guidance on how to pick which social platforms you should be on for your organization, how to set those up or update, make sure your social media profile is fully filled out, very, very important. And then talk about goals, categories, social content, and then give you that push to go ahead and get started to create a calendar for the year. So I like to do some questions here. So I would love for people to chime in about where they are. So just a couple of questions, and sometimes this is easier in a room where you can see everybody for raising hands, but do you have a digital marketing strategy? Does that include not just social, but also email and new web content? Who's contributing to it? How do you think you're doing? And what would you like to learn today? So we're just going to take a look there again, so we can customize it to what people want. So please chime in if you want to talk about where you are and where you want to go, and perhaps some things that you would most like to learn. So when we talk about digital marketing, it is not just social media. And I think that's what we hear a lot of the time, is we think it's just social media. So really, digital marketing is a combination of your website presence, your social media presence, and your email outreach. And it's how those three things can work together. And I think that's really important, because you could certainly do one of, you could certainly do them independently, but it's much, much stronger when they are working together. And again, like we talked about 2 weeks ago, your website being that focal point, that grounding place for all of the information where you are sending your traffic. So this is loosely what we recommend, and loosely. So it can be very specific for different organizations, but 1 to 2 minute pieces of content minimum added to your website each month. You want your site to have new and relevant content. And we're going to talk about some ways to brainstorm that content. If you're doing, and that would be more long form content, around 1,200 words. If you're doing much shorter posts, really try to post something once a week if you can to your website. Social posting, again, this can really vary, but as an average, as a generalization, 3 to 4 times a week, and making sure you're having consistent audience engagement. And then a monthly, bi-monthly, or even a quarterly newsletter that's linking back to your website content or your social posts, which just gives you more information. And this is just a graphic. It shows you how all of this overlays, right? So you're consistently posting every week on social media. You're doing 1 email newsletter a month. You're maybe doing 2 monthly updates on your content. And this shows you they're all layered over top of each other. And somebody might see it in one spot, they may not see it in another spot. So it just gives you a good visual of how this looks.
So I always start my social media calendar with my content. So how many blogs am I going to write? What's the topic going to be about? How long is it going to be? And then we move to the social posts, which are naturally curated ideas from other places. The one thing that I think is really important is that you, first of all, decide what you're going to write about. Then you figure out who's going to be in charge of reviewing what you're writing about, who's going to have the final approval, and then how quickly do you want to turn that? We typically work in 30-day sprints. So 2 weeks before the end of a month, our clients get their monthly content calendar with the blog posts, as well as all the social posts, titles, images, hashtags. They've got a week to turn it around. We have a week to schedule it, and then it deploys the next for the following 30 days. Go ahead to the next one, please. So, social media is important, but so many people just think it's important and they don't know why it's important. Social media allows you to amplify your message in multiple places. So like Rebecca said, whether you're seeing it in email, whether you're seeing it in the website, whether you're seeing it on the social channels, it's a place for people. It's like buying from Saks versus Nordstrom's versus Walmart. You want to give people an opportunity to shop wherever they're comfortable. And social media gives you that opportunity. It also gives you the opportunity to review what's working, what's not working, and pivot very quickly. Go ahead. Don't think of social media as the place people are going to make a purchase, unless you're me on a Saturday morning on Instagram and they're funneling, ads from Venus my way and I go buy 3 dresses. This is the top of the funnel. This is where people become aware of your brand, aware of your products and services, and then decide they want to get to know you through your content. Go ahead. One of the most important things that I cannot stress enough is to look at what your social media is bringing you. I see people doing social media in a flurry, and then they don't go back and look and see what's working. You need to know what's working, what's not working, and how to change to make sure that what you are doing is resonating with your audience, making sure you're speaking the right language to the right people, and that you're measuring what's working. So go ahead. I also see people posting all things to all platforms. And I can tell you right now that not every platform is for every person. And you should spend time in the space where your audience lives. You may be a business to consumer brand, and Facebook and Instagram make a lot of sense for you. You may be a B2B brand, and LinkedIn makes the most sense for you. You may be a large organization with customer service challenges. Twitter may be a good opportunity for you. So figure out where your audience is, where they live, and choose the platform that works best for them, and then spend time there. Get really, really good there. Don't try and be all things to all platforms.
Yeah, I love that, Gina. And if you look at this, there's no denying that Facebook is the biggest platform out there right now. So Facebook most likely is a good fit for some organizations. But like Gina said, we always say pick one platform and do that really, really well, and then decide another platform. And if you're B2B, LinkedIn should be your first platform. And then you can look at, if you are retail, Pinterest would be a really great place to be, and Instagram is a really great place to be. So just looking at these platforms, even though LinkedIn, has about 25% of the market, that's an extremely active percent of the market. And also you can look at the growth. We update these. We're going to go over the next few pages a bunch of stats, but these are updated every year. And when you look at these numbers, LinkedIn has had a lot of growth. Instagram has exponential growth, and Twitter has really leveled out. Like Gina said, Twitter has really found its place with, news updates, customer service. It's huge for, but really looking at, what those different things are. So, Gina, if you want to dive in, give a little more take on some of these, and then I'm going to go over, we pull all of these stats Every year Sprout Social releases spring summer. They release what's called the Sprout Social Media Index, and I have it. We have it in the resources at the end. The 28, maybe the 2018 and the 2019. The 2021 would be out reporting on how 2020 went. But I don't know about you, Gina, but I can't wait to see what weird things happened with social last year with everybody
Oh,
being home in their houses.
I can't tell you the number of people I know that have left Facebook just because of 2020. They just have gone away from it. And I personally spend more time on Instagram because I can custom curate my feed. Kelly, I don't love Alignable. I don't know about Rebecca, but I just I don't find a lot of engagement. I find a lot of people trying to sell me stuff and they're looking for recommendations and I've never met them before. And it's not my favorite. I don't spend a lot of time there. I don't know, Rebecca, what are your thoughts?
That you said alignable.
Yeah.
Yeah, LinkedIn does it better.
Yep.
I feel like there's a couple other platforms out there that I think tried to get into the space that LinkedIn is in. There's Alignable. There's one like my networking key. There's something with key in it. I can't even
Yeah.
remember what it is.
Yep.
And for me, when I'm choosing where to spend my time, if there's a platform out there that's already doing it really well, I'm not going to go into that other platform. I think LinkedIn is excellent for B2B. I will say LinkedIn is difficult to navigate in the jobs portion of LinkedIn, but it's still very powerful. So whenever we post positions, we always post them on LinkedIn first. So even though I don't love their user interface, it works very well. So it's very hard when you're in a market where somebody is doing something so strongly to come in. Sometimes I'll pay attention to things, maybe if they'll sneak up on you, but I agree with you, Gina. I think LinkedIn makes a lot more sense.
Yep. So in terms of the platforms, kind of the down low on who's on what, Facebook is the biggest, no question. And it is good for both businesses and individuals, but I would be hesitant to put a B2B client on Facebook unless we were recruiting for positions or just looking at general brand awareness. It is primarily business to consumer driven. Instagram, you've got to have good images. If you don't have good images, if you're not utilizing their live streams or their stories, don't play in that space. You need really good, really beautiful, really consistent images. I also recommend that you have frames for all your images. So when you go to the spread, everything looks consistent and beautiful. Twitter's a funny one. Like Rebecca said, it's a news place. It's a catching up with the latest celebrity gossip and fights between celebrities. But I find it very, very good for customer service. I had a lawn service that dumped a pile of fertilizer in my backyard, and I have 3 dogs. I tried to get a hold of them on the phone. I couldn't get a hold of them. I tweeted at them, and within a half hour, I had 2 guys out here shoveling the fertilizer up. So it's a very good customer service tool. Snapchat is great. It's a younger demographic. It's the way that I would use it is a takeover. So allowing somebody in your company take over Snapchat and videotape them or video themselves and whatever. Just know that it goes away. It's not an evergreen platform, so that does leave. Pinterest is.
I think with Snapchat too, Gina, one of the things we found out, we had a conversation with one of our clients is who's your target, right? So we had a client base, an educational organization that wanted to communicate with the young people in their programs.
Yep.
However, it was also interacting with their parents. And Snapchat has a little bit of a reputation of kids having secret accounts and doing things on those accounts that their parents don't know. So in that instance, we chose Instagram because young people are also on Instagram and their parents can see them on Instagram. So I think you have to look at now, if your audience is 20 somethings, I think Snapchat would be a great place to be, but to really drill down carefully into where you're going to be and where that platform is.
And lifestyle does well on Snapchat. So if you're a makeup company, if you're a hair product, but the majority of the businesses in this room are not going to do anything on Snapchat. I saw somebody mention TikTok too. Same thing. That's got to be really personal. That's about you. That's about you as a brand. So if you don't have a client that's willing to put themselves out there, TikTok's going to be a challenge. I was actually shocked. I had a client. She's in financial services. She did a TikTok and got 30 new clients from it. So it's not to say it doesn't work, but just again, know where your audience is and where your messaging should be. I love
Absolutely.
Pinterest. I love Pinterest for retail. We do really well on Pinterest. You're starting to see a lot more B2B. I see things for Rocketbook on Pinterest, actual product sales. But make sure that you're curating boards that people can find easily. You don't want to put all of your stuff into one board. Like we have a social media board. We've got a blogging board. So break it up and make it make sense. And then, as Rebecca said earlier, I cannot stress enough that LinkedIn is the #1 place for business and employment. It is the best platform. If you are a B2B company, if you want to be the expert in your field, if you want people to recognize you as the go-to person for whatever, LinkedIn is the place to be.
Absolutely. And I think you can see, people are having a lot more fun with LinkedIn than they used to. LinkedIn has videos now. LinkedIn, you can add emojis to their post. You will see it might be a smaller group, but really highly, highly engaged. 2 thoughts really quick just on Facebook. What I find really interesting with Facebook is people may be on there, for personal use, but the groups on Facebook are huge. And what's really interesting is LinkedIn, I guess, still has groups, but LinkedIn groups kind of fell flat. And Facebook is really, so I'm in probably 6 professional groups on Facebook that I am regularly commenting on. I am more active in Facebook groups than I am on my Facebook feed. So I'm in nonprofit communications professionals. I'm in a couple of women-owned business groups. And so there are lots of conversations happening there. So if you are on LinkedIn for your B2B, think about as a secondary market, because Facebook is going to know what groups people are in. So Facebook is going to know that, and it's going to make some assumptions about what areas people are in. And Genevieve said, yes, Facebook groups are the best. And another comment too about TikTok, and now Instagram has Reels, which essentially is them just doing TikTok. There was something the other day somebody posted, and they were like, who is so tired of seeing awkward professionals point to the words in the videos? You can either do it well or you can't. And so sometimes take a look at it, get some feedback, and maybe it's right for you and maybe it's not right for you. But I really did laugh at that meme, because people trying to do the point to the words in the video, it's very clear who can do it really well and who can't.
Yep, I agree.
So I'm going to skim pretty quickly through the next few pages, because we really want to get into what are we doing with all of this, right? We've already talked about write your web content. Here's social media platforms, and we'll talk a little bit about email at the end. But just a little bit of an overview. Again, all of this is from the Sprout Social research, and then also Pew Research does research as well on social media channels. So pretty soon we'll be updating that with the latest results from last year. Facebook skews more towards women. Facebook actually has a lower medium income. Instagram and Twitter are the ones with higher medium income. So again, if you're thinking about, if you have a target for incomes with your demographic you're going after, that is something to think of. Age and gender, again, you've got more women. I mean, a lot of people on Facebook, even if they say they're not on Facebook. Another interesting trend that we've seen is with Facebook Messenger. Now people will get purchase confirmations through their Facebook Messenger instead of their email if you've signed into that platform that way. I know Zulily will do that, and a couple of other sites as well. So you're seeing people evolve in how they're using this. Instagram is growing. It keeps growing. I love what Gina said before. If you're on Instagram, don't just be using the grid, which are the flat pictures. Make sure you're using reels. Make sure you're using stories. I've seen a bunch of brands recently. Really get into and do a great job of using Instagram stories. And again, this stat is a little dated, but 400 million daily active users are looking at Instagram stories. So that is extremely powerful. Instagram skews younger. So there might be people on Instagram that aren't even on Facebook. So if you have a younger demographic, to look at that. One note here, again, Instagram has a higher household income when they do that. I typically am recommending, I don't think we have any nonprofits on here today, but if you are a nonprofit and your goal is, individual donations or cultivating your donors, it's really important to look at Instagram on a relationship building tool, because then, women tend to drive those philanthropic decisions. So that's a place I recommend to people to be. Again, here's some more information on LinkedIn. It's highest among 30 to 49-year-olds. It's pretty even, men and women. Again, you have a higher income on LinkedIn. A couple of quick stats on Twitter. 18 to 29-year-olds is the largest group on Twitter. Pretty evenly split on gender. And again, you've got that higher income on there. So when we are talking about getting started with social media, and that's really what we hope you come away with today, is how to go in and actually do this yourself in a way that is efficient, in a way that makes sense, and in a way that is not overwhelming, because consistency is the key. So when you're looking at social media, we say choose 1 to 2 platforms, do great content, focus on your audience there. You can certainly go in and secure all of those other names for your organization. So for example, redstart Creative, we've got YouTube, we've got Pinterest. We're not really focusing on those right now. We've done those in the past and we do have content there, but right now we focus on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn is where we're primarily spending our time. So you don't want to spread yourself too thin, because you want to consistently show up. Keep in mind your visual brand. Like Gina said, your Instagram grid should look like your organization. It doesn't mean every single thing has to be perfect, but make sure it looks like it is coming from you. Stay consistent with your brand guidelines. If you don't have your brand guidelines, that's something you can get from whoever created your logo, or you could go ahead and do that yourself. You could say, these are the colors in our logo, and these are 3 other colors we can use to complement that. So that's really important. And then choose the same avatar. That's that little image across all your channels, so people can recognize you, which is a important thing to do. All right, Gina is going to talk about set up and making sure your pages. So some of you might have your pages, but here's how to make sure you're really filling in all the things.
Okay, so first thing is go grab them. You want to make sure whether you're posting to the platform or not, you have the platform, because if you decide 6 months from now that you want to start using Twitter and your handle's gone, what are you going to do? Then you're going to put Gina Ramsey 2. So even if you're not going to use the platform, go ahead and grab the page. Make sure it's a vanity URL. Make it make sense for your business. I see people put, how to girl. Well, what the hell does that mean? That's not who you are. It's something else. Unless you're trying to fly under the radar on something like Twitter, where you don't want people to necessarily know your political views, then you can put whatever you want. Pick a good image. Pick a good logo. Make sure you add multiple photos so people can get a flavor for you visually. Make sure all the information on the page is correct and that you use your contact information. I can't tell you how many people I go to look up on LinkedIn and I cannot find an email for them, or it's their Gmail account instead of their professional account, which they don't check. So all details, all complete and all correct. Go ahead. The About Us is on, or the summary or whatever it's called on each platform, is the most important part for you to fill out in terms of being found. So make sure that you populate that completely and use all of the keywords you want people to find you when they go to search. Make sure you fill out your products and services. People don't necessarily know. I can't tell you how many people ask me if I do websites. I'm like, well, of course I do websites. Just because we're a digital agency doesn't mean we only do social. So fill it all out. Assume people don't know. Make sure that you have your social icons on your website and that they link to your pages. Make sure that on your pages, you've got like and share on other people's social media so they can go directly to their platforms and share your content. If you are paying money, make sure there's a tracking pixel on it so you can see what you're getting from your digital advertising. Make sure that you're using the same cover photo and same logos across all platforms. With one exception, you can't use the same cover photo on LinkedIn that you do on Facebook, because whatever is on the left side of that page is going to be covered by your headshot. So you're going to have to make some adjustments to that LinkedIn cover photo. Consider adding some text to the cover photo so that you're telling people what you do. Again, if you look at my cover photo, it says website design, social media, blah, 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 blah. And again, make sure that those vanity URLs or usernames are all appropriate for your business. They're not some random words that you chose. Go ahead. Again, we talked about keywords. If you have a post that's really critical to your business, you can pin it to the top on Facebook so it doesn't scroll down, go away in the scroll. It's always interesting to tell your story by creating a company timeline and how you came to be who you are. Also, make sure that you put your dates of recognitions and awards, particularly in LinkedIn. I think that that's critical. The other thing that's cool in LinkedIn is that you can use rich media within your job. So if you've got a slide deck that you like to use, you can put it there. If there was a video interviewing you, you can put it there so people can go and find more information than just the written word. On Facebook and on LinkedIn, you've got tabs on your corporate page that have things like reviews, about, summary, products. Make sure that you utilize all those tabs and organize them in the way that you want people to see them. And again, in your products, make sure you're filling out everything. Don't assume people know you do something. You cannot tell them enough what you do. Go ahead. Instagram, it's important that it's a business account, not an individual account. So make sure you convert it. Make sure you add the right logo. And then in your bio, that is the only place you can provide a link. So make sure you tell people what you do, but add that link within there. You can use services to add multiple links, but at a very minimum, make sure that you add that one link. Again, here, remember, try and make sure that that grid looks attractive. Don't have a green picture and then a blue picture and then a yellow picture. Have everything consistent. Go ahead. Obviously, the link should be your website. Include phone numbers. Make sure you link it to your Facebook page so you're not doing double duty. And this will also allow you to advertise on Instagram when you're setting up your Facebook. When you're posting,
Oh, sorry.
when you're posting, make sure you do your keyword or your hashtag research, there was a tragic misuse of a hashtag. A guy, there was a Wendy's campaign where they had a new sandwich, and some guy posted in his post about wanting one of these sandwiches, hashtag me too, which had nothing to do with the sandwich and was very inappropriate to use that hashtag around a sandwich. So do your hashtag research. There's a ton of tools out there. Don't put hashtags in your bio, put them in your posts or in your comments. Instagram is an interesting place. Make sure that you use 11 to 13 hashtags on Instagram. You can bury them in the comments if you don't want your post messed up. And I always have a branded hashtag. So our branded hashtag is hashtag brands with bite. Make sure you're using your branded hashtags in every single post, and make sure that you've got two-factor authentication with your phone number on here so that no one else can log into your account and post. And some of these are for Instagram. Some of them are just general knowledge. You can use scheduler tools like Sprout Social. I happen to like eClincher a lot. Later is very cool for Instagram, and it allows you to add more hashtags, or I'm sorry, more links. So there are tools out there that can be your friend. Make sure you use them and use them wisely.
I like that. Use them and use them wisely.
Yep.
So again, that's what we were going to talk about here. We've got some of these tools listed right here. So on Facebook, you can always schedule your posts via the Facebook posting block. There's a way you can schedule those. You know, now, Gina, it's so funny. It's like, well, of course you can schedule Instagram from third-party schedulers, but you didn't used to be.
No.
So it was probably about 3 years ago. That was a really big deal for social media marketers, in order that you could post on Instagram through third-party APIs. Hootsuite's a great one, like Gina said, later.com. We use Sprout Social. I'm going to show you a couple of screenshots there. One of the reasons we love Sprout Social so much is the analytics and the reports are beautiful. You get really gorgeous, easy to read reports, so you can go ahead and look. And then we also have, we send by the 5th of every month, we send to our clients. We have it auto set up to send their reports on the analytics on how they did. So again, Hootsuite, Sprout Social, Iconosquare is another one. So just a little bit of a way, this is what Sprout Social looks like. Hootsuite is similar, you know, where you can go in and do those, but you can look, you can see where your posts are scheduled, you can draft them, you can edit them. So it's a great tool for collaboration. For example, we will brainstorm the content, we'll draft the content in here, we'll export it for the client's review and approval, and we'll have our proofreader proofread it within Sprout Social. Just want to see where we are here. So a little bit about planning. So when you're talking about social, we like to think of like 5 things you need to look at. You need to talk about your goals, talk about that audience, you know, refer back to that information on the different channels. Talk about your post strategy, your content categories, or your content pillars, and your calendar, and then deploy and review that content.
So with everything that you do in life, you should always have SMART goals. You should know exactly what you want to do, how you're going to measure it. I apologize for the dog. He's just not going away. The goals are attainable and relevant, and that you've got a time frame around it. You don't want to say my goal is to be the most widely recognized person on Facebook and then give yourself 2 weeks to do it. So make sure that all of these things are employed when you're making your goals for your campaign. Go ahead. This is the biggest piece of all of this, I think, is know your audience. Who are they? Do you have multiple audiences? In some cases, for example, a franchise, they've got not only the people that they want to include to sell to franchises, but the people that buy the products that the franchisees sell. So identify your audiences and what kind of message do you want to give to that audience? And identify what they sound like on social. If you're on TikTok, you're going to speak very differently than you are on LinkedIn. So make sure you're addressing the right audience with the right voice so that they will engage with you. Who are they? How old are they? Are they males and females? Are they 18 to 35 or are they 40 to 60? Where do they live? Where do they shop? What are their interests? And Facebook does an amazing job of allowing you to drill down, especially through the ad campaigns, about who you're trying to reach. And you can get really, really granular. And then again, the tone. Are you teaching? Are you asking? Are you storytelling? What are you doing with your voice to your target audience? Go ahead.
And I think one of the things about audiences too, we've talked about there's all these different platforms that reach different demographics. So you might use different channels for different things. For example, we had a client, it was a nonprofit organization, and they would use Facebook to mostly talk to donors, but for the clients that they served, they actually used Twitter to explain when healthcare for the homeless was coming, or the hours for the day, or any changes in the schedule. And so you get your different audiences, you refer them, say, hey, for updates, please see our Twitter. So that's a really great way you can look at, if you have vastly different audiences, one of the things to think of is maybe you use different channels and you have different messaging on each one.
Yep. So, who are you going to put, your audience, what your goals are. Now you got to figure out your platforms, the frequency and the time. And you can Google what's the best time to post on Facebook and find 27 different answers. My words of advice to you is check your insights and see. If you post at 10 in the morning and nothing happens, but you post at 2 in the afternoon and the post blows up, then try posting at 2 in the afternoon and see what that looks like. Do you post once a week? Do you post 3 times a week? Do you post 5 times a week? If you're only using organic and you're not doing any type of advertising around the post, my advice is post more frequently, because organic posts are only seen 1% to 2% of the time by people who are engaged with a page, much less people that are not engaged. So the more frequently that you post, the more likely it is that it's going to show up in someone's feed. I post 7 days a week. So whether someone sees my Sunday post of the cute fuzzy dogs, maybe they do, maybe they don't. But I want to make sure that I'm being consistent. And that's the other thing. If you're going to post 3 days a week, then post 3 days a week. Don't post once a week, one day, 5 days a week, the next week, and then once a week the following week. You need to be consistent in your posting.
Absolutely. And I think that's where you need to look at what is doable, really, really important. So Gina posts 7 days a week, which is great. Can you come up with really good content? Do you have the time to come up with really good content for 7 days a week? If you don't, do 2 or 3, but you want to make sure whatever you commit to, it's good content. And like Gina said, you are being consistent. I think that's really, really important. So we've got some information in here again about what people want to see on social, right? They want to know more about you. They want to learn about you, but not necessarily, again, I think the exception could be Instagram is extremely targeted with B2C, right? With retail. But people want to know more information. They want links to more information, maybe sending them back to your website. But nearly 1 in 5 people, they want graphics, images. They want to know more about you so they can learn about you. And again, this is really great. Look, links to more information, graphics and images. In the middle, you're kind of like produced video, but all the way down here, plain text does not do well, and overly edited photos does not do well. And so like Gina said, make sure you have a clear, great image, but nobody wants an overproduced staged photo. Those don't do well. So that's something to think about. So when you're thinking about your content categories, so this is a really great way to think about and break down the content you're doing. So is your content, pick what those categories. Is it behind the scenes with staff? Is it industry news? Like Gina said, is it fuzzy cute dog day on Sundays? Figure out whatever that is. And then that can be your content. And make a list, related to what you want to be doing. One thing that I really love is we hear a lot of conversation about, social influencers, right? These are people that are on Instagram and are getting paid to sell products and whatever. But why not use your own employees? Why not use your own employees to talk about what you do? You can use your own employees for advocates for your organization, and then it shows other faces. So that's a really great way to look at that. When you're doing, when you're creating this content, it does not have to be complicated. Creating a Google Sheet is a really great way to collaborate with people on that.
Rebecca,
And a note on, oh yeah.
I want to tag on to the employees. Also, your natural brand advocates, your customers. User-generated content is trusted like 84% more than information you put out as a brand. So if you've got people that can do video testimonials for you, can write a review, whatever, try and get that user-generated content as much as you can, because that's going to increase your brand.
Absolutely. And like Kelly said, it gives different perspectives, and then it's not always your face as the marketer or the business owner out there. So this just gives you an idea of content pillars, right? So a content pillar is you have a topic, and then you can have subsets within those. So it's really important to think about what those might be. And that can be in your content, that can be in your social media. For example, last year, redstart basically said each quarter we were going to have a different content pillar that we were going to focus on. One, we focused on SEO. One, we focused on websites. One, we focused on annual reports. And I can't remember what the fourth one was. And we did extremely long form content. We talked about it on our social as well. So you can call it content buckets, you can call it content pillars, but to give yourself some topics, which just gives you an idea to help brainstorm. Here's the other thing with social, right? Don't overcomplicate it. Don't make yourself super fancy. Be honest, be friendly, be approachable, be helpful. People do not want overly thought out posts. Social media is supposed to be a way to engage in relationship and grow relationships with your potential customers. So that's something to really think about as well. So here's just a couple of just different examples of content. So you could do an event promotion. That's pretty straightforward, right? You can do something that's entertainment. So this is actually a quiz. So it's actually a game that somebody could play, and you're posting that. This one is informational. It was sharing some information about Facebook. Right here, you've got inspirational, right? Inspirational quotes are really great to share with different days of the month, different things like that. We've got informational. This is about Chimes. It's talking about their training and their employment opportunities. And this is another one with an HR company we work with, talking about what they actually do. So those are just a couple of samples of how you can do those post categories.
So hashtags are one of my favorite things to talk about, because in most cases, nobody knows what the hell a hashtag is. So I'm just going to say, you need to learn what hashtags are. You need to use them, and you need to use them appropriately according to the platform that you're on. Think about hashtags as keywords. If I want to go figure out what's going on in Baltimore this weekend, I may look for Charm City. And then every single post that has the hashtag Charm City is going to show up, and I'm going to maybe find something to do this weekend. Look at hashtag research tools. You can find a million of them. Hashtagify me, hashtags.org. There's so many of them out there. Find the hashtags that are relevant to your business. Don't make them too generic, like hashtag business development. Well, that's like, if you're not specifically in business development, it's it's gonna be hard for you. My stepdaughter used to do hashtag nom 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 on food posts. Back then, nobody used that hashtag. Now there's like 3 million posts that use nom nom nom. So use them appropriately. Like I said, on Instagram, 11 to 13 hashtags. On LinkedIn, 3 to 5. On Facebook, 3 to 5. So figure out the optimum number of hashtags, the optimum hashtag, and then use that. Go ahead.
I put this slide in the wrong, I put this in the wrong part. It should have been before the hashtags, but this is basically what your Google Sheet can look like. What channel are you going to post on? What's the content? What are the hashtags? What's the image? So again, just a visual, you could write this, you can put it in the scheduling platform, you can put it in, you can put it in Google Sheets.
So once you figure out all of your content and you have it, you've got to get it done. So you can either use a social aggregator like Hootsuite, or you can post directly to the platform. The one thing I will warn you about with a social aggregator is that not all things translate across all platforms. So from Instagram to Facebook, an @ symbol, an @ mention doesn't necessarily translate. So you may need to go back in and check everything. And then if you're using an aggregator, you can pull reports, but the most thorough reports are going to be inside the platform themselves. Look at your results. What worked? What didn't work? Figure out what is working and continue to do more of the same. What is not working? Stop doing it. Change the platform, change your posting frequency, change the time that you're posting, change the voice that you're using, and figure out what your success metrics are. Is it engagement? Is it likes? Is it shares? Is it comments? And then stay true to that and make sure that you're rating all things the same. Go ahead. And these are just some best practices. This is definitely the KISS principle. Keep it simple. Don't overthink it. Post consistently based on your ability. Post on the right platform based on your audience. Make sure that this isn't just a text post. You need to have visuals. You need to have great imagery or video or stitched together video. There's a lot of tools that'll take multiple images, pull them together in a carousel and make a video for you. And sit down and spend the time. Map it out, review it, and then look at it the following month to make sure what you did actually brought you results.
Yes, man, we got through that quickly, Gina. I was worried because when I look at a presentation and it's 60 slides, here's the resource page, which again, you can go back, you can look at these Sprout Social reports, you can look at the Pew Research, you can look at a couple of these other things. And I feel like I may have accidentally deleted the email portion out of this, but the email portion is very simple. You've written that piece for your blog on your website, pick what performed well, make that the lead article in your newsletter, and have that go back to your website. Have a few supporting articles that link either to your website or to some conversations that have happened on social. So keep it very simple. Again, there's some links here to some ideas on brainstorming for that email marketing. But again, you're not reinventing the wheel with your email, right? You spent the time, you wrote your web content, you brainstormed, you wrote your social content, leading people back to your website. Your email newsletter is a way to collate all of that content together. So this is a very simple system that you brainstorm, you think, what are those pieces of content you're going to do each month over the year? What's happening, what's going on? You brainstorm, you sit down, you draft your content for a month, you go back and you review it. One thing I find, just like Gina said, 2 or 3 weeks before the month is going to start, you sit down, you brainstorm your content, you write it. One tip that I do recommend is the Friday before your posts are supposed to go, sit down and make sure everything is still relevant, right? Or if there is a major news event, go in and look at what you have scheduled to post. It may be appropriate to change a post, it may be appropriate to not post for a day or two, or you may want to write a new post. So it's really great to post that content in advance. And also, you can still post on top of it, right? So we've got, where is it up here? This lovely little sheet. So you've got all your pre scheduled content, you've got it up. Well, if you have an event, or for example, today's a gorgeous day in Baltimore, right? So you might want to post a picture with you and your laptop outside, or with somebody in your organization doing something. You will never be penalized for posting over top of that scheduled content. The idea of doing that is so you're hitting that baseline, you're hitting that consistency. You can always impromptu post over top of it.
Yep, I agree.